Hello, my name is Scott Joseph Andias, and I'm a student at Thomas Edison State College. This presentation is for my Nuclear Engineering Technology capstone project, and it will focus on high-level radioactive waste management and the historical events that have led to there not being a national repository for our high-level nuclear waste in our country.
The need for a repository. One of the contributing problems to the storage of high-level radioactive waste is that countries, including the United States, have pursued the production of nuclear weapons and nuclear engineering facilities without any plan for long-term disposal. A brief history of Yucca Mountain. The 1950s. Starting in the 1950s, the Atomic Energy Commission became responsible for handling high-level radioactive waste. The disposal of radioactive waste on land was written by the Atomic Energy Commission, and it was the first analysis of the geological disposal of high-level waste. The 1960s. In 1962, the first major experiments in high-level waste disposal were started by the Atomic Energy Commission. This started with Project Salt Vault. It was carried out in an abandoned salt mine located in Lyons, Kansas. The initial public feedback to this testing was positive, due to the following. The process was reversible, consultations were held with local groups, studies were conducted in full public view, and the public was even given tours of the project. High-level waste from the engineering test reactor in Idaho was delivered and placed in lined holes within the mine. Testing was conducted to validate the thermal and radiological effects of the high-level waste on the salt matrix. These tests were completed successfully. The 1970s. In 1970, the Atomic Energy Commission announced the Lyons site was selected as the first full-scale national repository for high-level waste. The public responded negatively to the announcement by the Atomic Energy Commission. The public felt as though the waste was being forced upon them. Incorrect assumptions were made by the Atomic Energy Commission based on the initial public response to the idea of a national repository being placed in Lyons. In addition, it was discovered that several boreholes from exploratory oil and gas mining threatened the leach integrity of the site. This caused a great deal of embarrassment for the Atomic Energy Commission, and the Lyons site was removed from consideration as a national repository. In 1974, the Atomic Energy Commission was split into the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the Energy Research and Development Administration. Less than 2 years later, the Energy Research and Development Administration became what we know today as the Department of Energy. During this time period, there were continued attempts to establish a national repository, but they were fruitless. In 1979, the Carter administration formed a group to research potential sites for a repository of high-level waste. The 1980s. In 1982, the creation of the Nuclear Waste Policy Act was the first major step in almost 20 years to be taken towards a national repository for high-level waste. It mandated that the Department of Energy take control of the nation's high-level waste. It directed the creation of 2 repositories, one on the west coast and one on the east coast, with the western site being completed first by the year 2000, and the eastern site being completed the following decade. It directed that 1/10 of 1 cent for every kilowatt-hour charged to the public would pay for the repository. By 1984, of the 9 original sites considered for a repository, only 5 would remain: Richton Dome, Mississippi, Death County, Texas, Yucca Mountain, Nevada, Davis Canyon, Utah, and Hanford, Washington. Each of these sites were chosen for their geological stability and their relative isolation from major population centers. By 1986, that list had narrowed yet again down to 3 sites: Yucca Mountain, Nevada, Hanford, Washington, and Death County, Texas. These sites were chosen because they already had links to either nuclear testing or nuclear development. In 1987, the Nuclear Waste Policy Act was amended to single out Yucca Mountain, Nevada as the sole site for a repository. This decision was settled on by Congressman Jim Wright, a Democrat from Texas, and Tim Foley, a Democrat from Washington, who was also Speaker of the House at the time. Neither of these men wanted a repository in their state, and they fought to keep it out. This decision by Congress immediately set the federal government and the state of Nevada at odds. This was reflected by the Nevada government immediately adopting a not-in-my-backyard policy towards the Yucca Mountain project. The 1990s. In 1991, surface studies of the Yucca Mountain site started. They were planned to last until 1993. In 1994, tunnel work on the Yucca Mountain site began. And by 1995, 5 miles of exploratory tunnels had been dug and prepared for Department of Energy study. Also in 1995, the Department of Energy concluded that the Yucca Mountain site was geographically stable. The Department of Energy also stated the project was severely behind schedule and proposed a revised opening date of 2010. In 1996, the Federal Appeals Court denied the Department of Energy revision to the opening date of Yucca Mountain site. The court ordered the Department of Energy to start accepting waste by the original 1998 date. In 1997, thermal testing began at the Yucca Mountain site. In 1998, the January deadline for the Department of Energy to start accepting and storing high-level waste came and went. This caused several lawsuits to be filed against the Department of Energy by various power companies. These trials would go on for years. In December of 1998, the Department of Energy released the Yucca Mountain Viability Assessment. This declared the site viable for storage of high-level waste. Although the Department of Energy did admit that there was much work to be done before the site could be officially recommended for the storage of high-level waste. The 2000s. In 2002, the Department of Energy began the process for submitting an application for the licensing of Yucca Mountain to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. In 2005, the Department of Energy announced its plans to ship high-level waste on dedicated nuclear waste trains, meaning the train would not have any other cargo besides nuclear waste. In 2006, the Department of Energy officially released plans to set the opening date of Yucca Mountain to the year 2017. In 2007, the Walker River Paiute tribe rejected the Department of Energy proposal to have nuclear waste trains pass through their reservation. This caused the Department of Energy to reset the opening date of Yucca Mountain to the year 2020. In 2008, the federal government applied for a construction license for the Yucca Mountain site. The 2010s. In 2010, President Barack Obama stopped the review of the licensing for the Yucca Mountain project. The president also impaneled a study to recommend a new policy for the long-term management of used fuel and high-level waste. This would become known as the Blue Ribbon Commission. To complicate things further, the 2010 budget that was passed by Congress allocated no funds for continued development of the Yucca Mountain site. With the passing of the new budget, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission stopped its review of the Yucca Mountain licensing. In 2013, the D.C. Circuit Court ruled that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission was in violation of the Nuclear Waste Policy Act. The court ordered that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission complete its review of the Yucca Mountain licensing. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission Chair, Allison McFarland, stated that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission would finish the review as ordered, but she did not specify when the review would be complete. And here we are in 2014. Yucca Mountain remains incomplete and unopened due to delays and political strife. Our country remains without a national repository for high-level nuclear waste. The question remains, what are the real outcomes of not opening Yucca Mountain as a repository for our high-level nuclear waste? Without a national repository for the storage of nuclear high-level waste, various forms of interim storage are being used locally at each nuclear site. The high-level waste will first sit in cooling pools for up to 10 years. Once sufficiently cooled, the high-level waste will then be moved above ground and stored in dry storage casks. Since there is no national repository for high-level waste, dry storage casks have become our permanent solution. With the high-level waste being stored locally at each nuclear site, this is creating a situation that the Nuclear Waste Policy Act was expressly trying to prevent. Ironically, we are now storing our high-level waste in everyone's backyards.